And with that, we are now joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor. Chuck, before we get into the nonsense I want to ask you about, no, not a ton of nonsense tonight. Pretty straightforward game. Thoughts on the game, reactions from the team. How are you feeling? How are they feeling after this one?
Yeah, I think the general consensus from the team is basically just that number one, Sam Ersson was great, which he was. Second straight game, he's been awesome. Second is just that the defensive play, the structure has gotten dramatically better. And I think they know that they need more offensively. They know that this isn't a sustainable long-term solution to winning games, just scoring 2 goals a night, basically. But the structure was so bad a week, 2 weeks ago that this is a dramatic improvement. Now, doesn't mean they're finished, but it does mean it's a dramatic improvement. This was a toss-up game to me. This really could have went either way. It was basically even. The Flyers just made one more play than the Blues, who, in fairness, are not a very good team. But the Flyers need wins. With the hole they dug themselves at the beginning of the season, they don't need style points right now. If they want to stay, in the mix where these games are going to continue to matter well into 2025, need wins. And the last 2 games, they've gotten wins. And that's the most important thing. That and the fact that the goaltending, at least the starter, Sam Ersson, no longer a question.
Charlie, the defensive game really seems to be coming around. But where have all the rushes gone? We got a question, or we got a tweet that I wanted to share with you that I had some thoughts on earlier. It was from Chris Ostrowski. It says, not sure how many people have noticed it, but Torts, he basically says he's abandoned the, hey, weak side winger, you take off, and we're going to try to push for all these rushes, and they're crashing down 5 on D and try to win these low-scoring games this way. My thought on it, and I want to see if I'm this far off, is it's a number of things. One, that disconnectedness we've talked about. When they do have the opportunities, they miss the pass. Things just go a little wrong. They run into each other. We saw some of that tonight. Like, just that disconnectedness has kind of stopped it from really clicking. Also, when the goaltending is as bad as it was in the first 10 games, you can't cheat for offense because every risk is like, yeah, there's like a 50% chance we give up a goal here. If we're 5-on-4 and we have we lose a battle, it ain't gonna go well. Like, all these things kind of combining to, the rush offense is just taking a back seat right now. Where have all the rushes gone, do you think? Am I off here?
I mean, yes and no. So number one, I do track controlled entries. I haven't tracked this game, but I tracked all the other games. The Flyers are still very much a controlled entry team. They are not playing dump and chase. They are carrying the puck in a lot. Now, I would say that they haven't had as many dangerous rushes this year as compared to last year. That seems true. It just by the eye test. That said, I do agree with your point that there are times, it's not like they have gone full conservative. There are times where they have wingers stretch in the zone, where they try to find guys for stretch passes, and it's just not clicking. The passes aren't quite where they need to be. Even when they hit a guy, it maybe doesn't maybe isn't clean, and it slows everything down, and then the rush goes slower, then they can't attack in transition with the kind of speed they did last year. So that's part of it. That said, I do agree with the tweet person that they are definitely being a bit less aggressive. And I think that kind of is a necessity given the fact that they were struggling so much. You talk about goaltending. I'm going to say the defense too. One thing that we talked about this earlier in the week, one thing that they've done much better at over the last 2 games, I would say, is covering the slot. They had that one chance near the end of the game that Ersson has to make a big save on Braden Shen. But beyond that, they really haven't been giving up many chances in the slot area. They've been doing a much better job at defense. And is that necessarily linked to the lack of offense? Not necessarily, but they're probably cheating a little bit less. They're probably being a little bit more conservative. And so far, I don't think this is the end game for the Flyers style, but in the here and now, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, Jimmy. I know I told you were up, and then I had a follow up. My bad. Yeah. Like, I think when we say rushes, like, I did see a little bit more of like 5-man breakouts tonight, and those lead to some controlled entries. I guess I'm just talking about like the odd man rushes, TK flies the zone, we win a battle, Sean Walker flips it up to him. Like, that just seems to have gone away a little bit. Like, there's less 2-on-1s, fewer.
Sure.
I'm sorry, you corrected me. Fewer 2-on-1s, fewer breakaways than there were last year, and like, that's just making the games a little bit more boring. But as Scott Hartnell said at intermission, I guess we just got to keep doing boring.
There you go. Charlie, listen, speaking of entry, that first goal, love the way Hathaway kind of was just, he was a man determined and then finds Hathaway with the goal. But that fourth line, I loved it last year. Happy to see it back this year. Why would we ever break this up, Charlie?
Well, what I can tell you is, I mean, this new look for line, because the fourth line to start last season was Delorier, Paling, Hathaway. Then for the final maybe 2 months of the year, they got locked into this Cates, Paling, Hathaway line. And that line by the advanced metrics was really good. Tonight, it was good. I mean, they make a really good play, and that was all Ryan Paling. You know, that was a moment where we remembered why Bill picked him to win the Calder years ago. You're like, oh, yeah, he was a first-round pick. He does have skill. That was a really, I mean, he's obviously not the guy who gets the goal. Hathaway gets the goal. But that doesn't happen if Paling doesn't go end-to-end with the puck, goes through quite a few St. Louis Blues en route to the high-danger area, then to set up Hathaway. Just reminds you that these fourth liners, Ryan Paling is probably just a really good fourth liner. Like, that is probably what he is if he ends up on a cup contending team, whether that's the Flyers or somebody else. But it just shows you that the really good fourth liners are still really freaking good at hockey.
Oh, yeah, that's Charlie. He showed us why for at least one game. You know, the very first game of his career, he was the all-time leader in goals per game. Scored a hat trick in his debut. That was why I picked him to win the Calder. He did not.
That did not happen.
Not everything was sunshine and rainbows tonight, Charlie. There was a lot of fun stuff, especially at the end. You know, tight, boring games can lead to dramatic finishes, but there was a little bit of drama in the first. Right. Matvei Michkov benched after his first shift, and honestly, he deserved it. Was there any talk about that post game, or what did you think?
Yeah. John Tortorella was asked about it, and he actually was pretty open about the fact that, yeah, he did sit Michkov. Obviously, it wasn't for an extremely long period of time. He probably missed maybe like 3 or 4 shifts at most. Was back in around like he kept him on the power play, so it was the first 5-on-5 shift that attracted towards his ire. Kept him on the power play. Power play came up after, but he missed a bunch of 5-on-5 shifts. By the end of the first period, he was back out there. And basically what Torts said is, look, I'm not going to go into the specific details of what it is, but this is something that the thing that raised our eyebrows was something that we've been working with him on. We've been telling him he needs to do this. And Torts basically said, look, like, there's part of me that I'm not sure how much he fully grasps what we're telling him to do. There's a language barrier. Absolutely. And what he wanted Michkov to do was just watch the game for a little bit. And he was like, look, you know, he's learning the NHL. My guess, and this is based on things that Torts has told us before today, one thing that they've harped on with Michkov in the early going is not being as disengaged away from the play in the offensive zone, less about the defensive zone. Like, yeah, he had a couple turnovers and probably could have been harder on pucks there in that first shift. But in the lead up to that, he's just kind of hanging out by the side of the net. Konechny comes in to jet in to try to get the, try to add some pressure. I think their hope is that Michkov recognizes that and then kind of cycles back up to the top of the offensive zone so that then he's the third man high and they're kind of in constant motion. Whereas Michkov is inclined at this point to just kind of hang out by the high danger areas and wait for the puck to come to him. And I think what they're telling him is like, look, in the NHL, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you can't just do that. That's not going to fly. And my guess is that they saw that. And I believe Jackie Spiegel pointed out that right before Michkov got back on the ice for his first 5-on-5 shift of the first period after that play, he was talking with Rocky Thompson. They were looking at the iPad, and then Michkov got a little tap on the shoulder from Torts to start the second period when he obviously was fully put back into the rotation. Look, Torts basically said this is part of the process. And he even said today, he said, look, we might sit him for a game or two at some point down the road. I don't know. But the idea is that we're teaching a 19-year-old the NHL. And that's what's going on here. And, we knew something like this was going to happen eventually. It's game 11, and this is the first time he got sat for a few shifts. I didn't hate this way because it wasn't like he ended up sitting him the rest of the game. It would have honestly been a bummer for the fans who came out on Halloween night to get to see 2 shifts of Matvei Michkov before he gets relegated to the side of the bench. But it was enough to let him know that we're telling you to do this thing. You're not doing it, and you have to be held accountable. And I think it says something to the rest of the team too, that even the phenom is getting held accountable when everybody knows we've been telling him to do something. We're mentioning it in meetings, we're mentioning it in tape studies, and then he doesn't do it. Yeah, he's gonna have to sit for a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine. Like, honestly, I didn't even notice the offensive zone stuff. I thought the defensive zone stuff was just so glaring in how half-hearted it seemed to me. Like, sorry, bro, you can't play that way. And as long as it's not petty, as long as it's not like a hanging offense where it's, oh, he's in the doghouse now and there's no getting out. Like, this is just teaching. This is just coaching. I don't think this is any more like John Tortorella. Oh, it's Torts being Torts. Like, I don't think it's that. I think this is just how, like, sometimes you have to coach a kid. Even this is how good they are. And they said on the broadcast, like, listen, the captain got scratched. Joel Farabee played a 36-second game last year. This happens to everyone. Like, we were joking, like, at least, there can never be the rift between him and the coach that they sit him in his hometown because he's, they don't play in Russia. But, like, Sanheim got sat in Calgary. Bobby Brink got sat in Minnesota. This happens to everyone. You're not immune to it, and that's fine with me. And then he got him back out there, took his regular shift, and that's all. That's just good coaching to me. Charlie, I really like Emil Andrae. I don't know how ready they think he is, but I think he can help this offense in ways of just getting the puck up the ice faster, making quick decisions. Obviously, the passing and his shooting ability and all that stuff will come around. Maybe we see him on Power Play 1 sometime soon. What have you seen out of Emil Andrae in his first couple games this season?
He's been impressive. He adds an element of puck moving and aggressiveness, both with and without the puck. We talked about this. We talked about this after the Boston game, that he is surprisingly physical for his size. He is not he doesn't shy away from contact, despite the fact that he's 5'9". I think. Look, I asked John Tortorella this after practice today about Zamula. About how long is it going to be out, and basically Tort said, "Look, we're not going to stop developing Yegor Zamula. That remains a focus. He's going to get back in at some point. But when you're trying to get a team to turn it around and they start turning it around, you can't change the lineups. At least in his mind, you can't change the lineup. If I tell these guys you got to be better and then they start being better, I can't reward a guy who's part of that process by taking him out of the lineup. I have to stick with this. And I think they're going to continue to stick with it. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, they lost Cam York, and that hurts. He's a really good defenseman. He's developing into, I think, a legitimate, maybe even top pair defenseman. He looks real good. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the team defense has gotten significantly better since, number one, Nick Seeler came back in the lineup because he's a really good defensive defenseman, and number two, Emil Andrae replaced Yegor Zamula, who was the team's worst performing defenseman. So as much as they lost by losing York, I think they've gained by adding in Seeler and then swapping out their poorest performing defenseman for a kid who I don't think he's killing it, but he's been a net positive, whereas Zamula was a net negative.
All right, just one more for you, Charlie, and then we'll hit 3 stars and get out of here. Lawton with Farabee and Brink, they score the big third period goal. We see that Farabee-Brink chemistry that goes back to last season. We really like them together. Think Bobby did enough to keep himself in the lineup for a few games?
Well, I don't think the Flyers are going to change the lineup. Torts said this morning, number one, he's not bringing anybody in or out. Number two, he didn't even change the lines. Like, he's keeping the lines together. And I don't think he loves these lines, but his thing is, hey, we're winning. Let's pacify all you people who say that we're changing the lines too much. Let's keep them together, see if they can develop chemistry. I love the Farabee-Brink combination. I don't really give a crap who the center is. It could be anybody. It could be Paling. It could be Lawton. It could be Frost. I just like that duo because it seems like they think in similar ways. They just know where each other are on the ice. And you saw it on that goal. I mean, that was a give and go, great pass to set up Brink right in front. Sometimes guys just, they think in a similar way on the ice, and it seems like those guys do.
All right, Charlie, it is now time for your 3 stars of the game. Hit us with star number 3.
I like the graphic. I think that's the first time I've seen it in full screen. Third star. Who are we going to go with third star? Let's give the third star to Ryan Paling. Great He doesn't get a goal, only an assist, but that Hathaway goal was his goal. And based on the celebration, I think everybody knew it. They were getting a real charge out of the play, like, oh my God, what a great play. It was a great play. And that was one of those moments where Ryan Poehling, as I said, reminds you there was a reason why he was taken in the first round. There was a reason why there was hype around him in Montreal. He has skill. He's obviously got speed. And while he might not be able to do that all the time, and that's why he's not a top line player, he can do it sometimes. And we saw, hey, this is why there are times where Ryan Poehling can get on a hot streak and look like a really good NHL player. I'm not saying he's not a good NHL player. I'm just saying in that moment, he looked like a guy where it's like, man, put him on the power play, give him 20 minutes a night. That guy looks awesome. And he obviously can't do it every night. But on that play, he looked like a top line player. And for that reason, he's my third star.
We're going to clip just that part of you saying, put him on the power play, play him 20 minutes a night, and that'll be the headline of tonight. No, I stole this from Twitter. I said it earlier, but I want you to laugh about it too. Ryan Poehling dressed up as Connor McDavid for Halloween.
Love that.
That was good. All right, star number 2.
Star number 2, I'm going to go with Bobby Brink. Bobby Brink gets the game winner in dramatic fashion. 3 minutes left in the game. I don't think he was incredible tonight. I didn't think he was fine. I thought that line was solid. But in the end, you get that kind of dramatic goal. You deserve a star. And I'm happy for Bobby Brink because obviously he got scratched for 3 games. He hasn't necessarily been in Torts' good graces, and Torts even said that after the game. He said, look, I've been up and down with him this year about his defensive play, but what I like about him is the puck seems to follow him. And on that play, puck followed him, and finally someone on the Flyers capitalized. So for that reason, Bobby Brink is my second star.
All right, hit us with that first star, Charlie O'Connor.
Yeah, I think you can guess who this is. It's Sam Ersson. Second straight great game. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a second straight shutout, but he had a real long shutout streak. Ersson's been great. And I don't think he's ever been bad this year. I didn't like his game against Minnesota, but beyond that, I think he's been fine. It's just that the difference now is that he's making those timing saves, I believe is what John Tortorella called it after the game. The saves where you need that big save at a key moment that isn't necessarily, it wouldn't be a bad goal if he gave it up. Like I'm thinking about those 2 breakaway shorthanded goals that he gave up a few games ago. Like neither of those are bad goals. They're breakaways. They're tough to stop. But not every breakaway goes in. And if he makes one of those 2 saves, maybe the Flyers win that game. He didn't. They lose. These last 2 games, he's making those saves. He's making those key saves. And I'm thinking especially that huge one on Braden Shen at the end of the game with 20 seconds left. Like the Sam Ersson from a week ago allows that to get through him. And then they're in overtime. Maybe they lose in overtime. And this is all a big bummer. And we're talking about an entirely different narrative. Instead, he makes a save. They come away with the win. Sam Ersson's been really good these last 2 games, and for that reason, he is my number 1 star.
All right, Charlie, that is Philadelphia's number 1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center after the Flyers' 2-1 win. I will talk to you. We're off tomorrow. I'll talk to you Saturday, my friend.
Talk to you Saturday, William.
See you, Charlie.
All
Thanks,
right,
JP.
that's
We all silly like the mayor.